Welcome back, everyone. We're really excited to be back this week. We have some amazing news that happened in the AI world. As always, we have with us our CEO and founder, Toli. Toli, we have some incredible topics to cover this week, and I'm really excited to jump into it. We're going to talk about Stargate, which is on everyone's mind, given that the president is so excited about it. We're going to talk about something crazy, which is AI predicting your success in your career based on your facial features. So get ready, everyone. This is going to be an exciting one. So let's jump into this. First of all, Stargate, it's a huge project. What's going on here?
Let's rewind back and try to read between the lines of what's happening. China has been making a lot of progress in the AI world. So with their open source models and their reasoning models in general. And this week, DeepSeek R1 was released with incredible feedback from both the developer community and the testing that they've done. So one, it costs 2% of the cost of the US's top models like ChatGPT, 2% the cost. So 98% off, crazy. It's even better than your typical Black Friday deal. It's open source, so people can use it, have full transparency on how to use it. And the other part is on some metrics, like Scale AI's metric of how well it does in math and other computational tasks, it was actually the leader in all of it. And which is also an incredible one. Kudos to the team there for being able to produce such an incredible model. And then to the point, there was internal memos leaked from Meta saying that it has really spooked the Gen AI team there because Meta's been working on Llama, the equivalent for the US version open source, and now DeepSeek has produced a model that is significantly better with them at a fraction of the cost. So I think if I'm trying to read between the lines and looking at the timeline of events here, the progress being made by China has kind of put a lot of governments, not just the US, but a lot of governments on alert. And I think that leads us to Stargate. So Stargate was an announcement made this week by Donald Trump, Sam Altman, the CEO and founder of OpenAI, Larry Ellison, who's the Oracle founder, and Masa, who is the CEO and founder of SoftBank. And they created a brand new entity with a 500 billion. It's crazy to say that number. We just raised a $5 million seed round. Clearly, I wasn't thinking big enough. 500 billion is the new seed round for AI. $500 billion round to create brand new data centers to service apparently just OpenAI's need for compute to create better, faster artificial intelligence here in the United States. So if you tie all that together, the pressure coming from other companies, especially from other countries, especially from China, now there's a huge amount of investments that's stamp of approval from the US president of needing to continues to invest in AI made in the United States. The comparison that came to my mind is what happened with manufacturing. US used to be a manufacturer, earlier in the 1900s, but then everything moved to China because it was better, cheaper. Sound familiar? And now you're seeing AI 98% off of what US prices their AI today, at least. And then if you look at the manufacturing comparison, 31% of the world's manufacturing goes through China, while it's roughly 15.9% goes to the United States. And I don't think, and now I think in AI, I think it really could be, especially for the large language models, the foundational models, it could be even more drastic differences in percentages. And I don't think the US, Europe, want such a dominant force as you see in manufacturing, because most of the products that we have today, electronics, kids' toys, you see that made in China. I don't think that's the intent that global leaders have when it comes to artificial intelligence of being made in China as well. So that's what I think is happening from reading between the lines of what's happening in artificial intelligence and why this $500 billion investment was made into a brand new entity to power compute to help continuous build artificial intelligence from OpenAI here in the States.
It's the new race, right? We had space race and now we're running this AI race. And right now it seems like China is leading that race.
It is, for the open source realm at least. In the open source realm, like people, like developers have access to it. It'll get faster adoption because people have an easier time building on it, and the cost associated with it. On many tests, OpenAI is still the leader. Anthropic's Claude model, the Sonnet model, still does really well in tests such as coding. But as far as when you slash the cost down so drastically and make it open source, it kind of like for that inkling of, bump you get from OpenAI or Anthropic's models, it becomes very difficult to make that choice when you have a model that's so much cheaper. So I think the US still, in terms of most metrics, the models are still the best, but when you start incorporating the open source aspect, because the best models in the United States are definitely closed source, and you incorporate the cost associated with using those models, that's where the risk, the pros and cons start to outweigh the use of what's best in class when the next one is this close with such a drastic difference in cost.
What's China's secret? How do they get a product that's so similar to be 98% cheaper? Do you have any guesses?
So the DeepSeek story is it's a hedge fund, a quantitative trading hedge fund that has a lot of servers that they use during trading hours. But outside of those 7-8 hours that's used for trading, they were sitting idle. So DeepSeek is actually a side hustle for a Chinese quantitative hedge fund. So a couple of things. One, they have some incredibly smart people, obviously, there. It takes incredible talent in math, in computational science to be able to build this, and they clearly have it due to their expertise on their hedge fund side. And two, I think when someone releases a model, and there's public articles about this, that even like Google has been using like some of the existing models out there to help train, compare, and improve their own models. I think there's something there associated as well. Like once a new model is released, it's like the 4-minute mile. When someone does it, a lot of other people will do it, and AI, especially because now that there's more data being produced from those models, it's easier to create the next one that lines up to it. So there's definitely some cost, there's definitely some benefit in fast follower. And again, credit to the team for doing it. The rumored amount that it cost to train it was $5.5 million, which is crazy considering like we're talking about $500 billion investments made into brand new AI companies, and they did it in 5.5. And then the running joke is like at Meta, there's a bunch of leaders making more than that, leading their projects like as individuals, let alone what it costs to train the entire model itself for DeepSeek. So again, kudos to them. It takes a great deal of talent. They have the infrastructure in place. And there seems to be a benefit into fast follower when it comes to building LLMs. But again, they're clearly a very, very talented team who knew what they were doing and have really created state-of-the-art open source AI model.
Two things I'd like to follow up on that, because I think this is a really interesting topic with a lot of meat in this bone, which is if we're talking about China, I'm thinking about firstly, they were able to do that because they didn't care as much like the West and the US especially about worker condition, right? They were willing to sacrifice something else to be able to make sure they were faster, more productive. I'm wondering if that's the same going to happen with AI. And as a second question, I'm wondering what's gonna happen worldwide once such a big shift happens if China wins that AI war.
With this here at AI or not, I mean, building an artificial intelligence itself is, some kind of equation of people, the talent, the horsepower of people, and then the horsepower of the compute itself. So when you crank both of those up to extremes and you have really smart people with a lot of IQ capacity working on this, which again the DeepSeek team clearly does with their backgrounds and what they're able to accomplish, and you work really, really hard, and then you have the compute to match that, then yeah, the sky's the limit, right? AGI, here we come. So it's definitely creates that. But again, I think everyone else in the world is taking the same approach. Compute is incredibly hard to get. Hence the Stargate Project. Like the only thing it does is compute. It's not building the AI. It's just building the data centers to train the AI and power the AI itself. It's not even building AI. It's that's OpenAI's job. This is just to power it. And then when you multiply that by really smart people from the space, like that's what it takes. And you're right, working hard, and for both the computers, the compute, as well as the people is the combination. And I don't think it's controversial to say, I mean, China has billion plus people. So just by sheer numbers, there's going to be more people available, and a higher chance of having really talented people there to be able to do this. And China's historically been very strong in STEM, in the math and sciences as well, with the education that their population gets in those fields. So again, combining that, and then if they have their own versions of Stargate to provide compute for them, however which way they get it, now the race, the arms race in AI really is on. And I think that the US, and I would say the world, I know EU has made some announcements around this too. But I think everyone's concerned about AI truly becoming made in China, and I don't think that's the outcome that anyone thinks is good for the next decade plus of world GDP.
It's tricky to think of China becoming basically the largest power in the world just by way of AI. Bringing it back to the States, reading between the lines, like you said, I 100% agree that Trump and the administration are thinking, okay, we need to get ahead. We're starting to get behind. Let's give some power to this. And in that same note, they seem to be on it day one, because at day one, they revoked a Biden executive order that was addressing AI risks. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I did. So if we can rewind back of what the executive order actually did, it was in I think towards the end of 2023, and the Biden administration put out an executive order around the safety of how development should be trustworthy for artificial intelligence. So there were some really good parts that I don't think anyone will say are bad. So there was additional requirements, additional security requirements, if AI was being used for weapons and weapons of mass destruction. I think we can all agree that's probably a good thing. So, AI doesn't just feel like, pressing the button to release some missiles, right? Probably, let's call that a good thing. The other part was in the healthcare field, in the healthcare and things that actually physically, in real life, affect people. I think we talked about this with the food angle before, and even the, pharmaceutical drugs. And when it comes to health, and especially personal data used to train the AI, also probably a good thing to put additional standards on AI involved with those areas, just like we put additional security standards like HIPAA and privacy standards around that kind of data. makes complete sense that it has additional standards around artificial intelligence, because making a decision about, where to eat or what's the best, computer screen, like, and other things you can ChatGPT is way different than which medicine should I be taking, or how should I, get healthier, or if I have this disease or something like that. And there's definitely different standards to those things. And with those, I do agree that some additional measures were in place. But I don't think the executive order was perfect by any means. I do think it missed the mark in certain areas. I think at the time in late 2023, if we can rewind our heads back to that, and AI, I mean, it feels like a decade ago of where things were there. This was to rewind it back, these were the days of like weird fingers on videos, and like kind of wonky pictures, and audio was so, and video was basically non-existent for AI generated content. And the government approach in this executive order was to mandate or strongly consider watermarking, meaning if you were to produce AI generated content, it included some kind of marking that said, hey, this is by this AI company. Like if you've ever used X, formerly known as Twitter, all of their images include a Grok X in the bottom right corner. DALL-E includes a marking at the bottom right. I think it's like colors, like a little mark, like vertical colors at the bottom right. So that's what I mean by watermarking. Why I thought that this was an extremely ineffective way to do AI detection and try to solve some of the bad that it does is because two reasons. One, it's open source. So if you have open source image generators, and there's been incredible ones produced since 2023 in the image and video generation and audio generation realm, a developer can easily remove them. So it's kind of pointless. If those models are already in the wild, you're already too late. The watermarks are going to be completely ineffective because for open source, a developer can do whatever they want to it. And if this executive order, which is not a law, ever actually went into law, no one's going to return back to sender what they already have for those models. Be like, oh, here, why don't you fix it so it adheres to this and then give it back? Like, it's not going to happen. So it's already in a lot of ways was too late. And then the second part that it missed the mark on is the same way that we would look at content and think, oh, this is AI, look at it as a watermark. Think if people who want to increase the rate of misinformation, increase confusion, and have people questioning more and more, you can start adding those same AI watermarks to things that are real. So if you have, a politician or something related to like the LA fires or anything recent, and you want to claim misinformation on it, you just slap one of those watermarks on the bottom of a real image and be like, look, this thing is AI. Like, it clearly has the watermark. And with how fast the internet moves before anyone fact checks it or AI checks it, it's already out there, and people are claiming misinformation on it. So in that area, I do think it was a little bit short-sighted, and I'm glad to see it was revoked because it was not an effective solution for stopping misinformation and AI detection, because this method could actually, in a lot of ways, do more harm than good. But in other areas of the executive order, such as in weaponry and healthcare, we probably should take a second look of what should be the requirements before we build AI that's involved in those areas.
And so with those being revoked, are you afraid at all of having too little, basically guardrails?
Yeah, it's a balancing act. Again, we talked about this before. Like, when there's new technologies made, there's always going to be a bad use for it. It's since the beginning of the internet. Like, the internet's a beautiful place where information gets shared, without boundaries, without borders. But it also created a lot of misinformation. Streaming produces incredible content, incredible entertainment, and a lot of value. but also is used, for really negative things and people doing really bad things as well. So I think in this case, you're right. They are skewing towards innovation, where maybe previous administrations were skewing towards safety. But this, granted, who the president has surrounded himself with, it's like innovate, accelerate all of it, and that's kind of the motto of the technologists around him. But there's already been really interesting uses about this. There's this video about someone set up a robot. It's online. Hopefully we can find a video of this. Someone set up a robot that was shooting paintballs, and they connected it to ChatGPT, and that robot was able to follow the person and then shoot him accurately with paintballs. And they did that with the OpenAI API. So already, like, this is a closed source model. So let alone the open source ones we discussed previously, like it's already out there. So there's already uses like that, and people are gonna do what people are gonna do. We can only use our imagination if we replace those paintballs with something else. But people and developers are going to do what they're going to do. But there's probably some kind of right balance. Before, maybe we were skewing too far to safety, and innovation fell behind in some areas. But now, we'll see if skewing to ripping all guardrails off has negative consequences as well.
That video is scary.
It sure is.
Because you can again, like you said, you can let your imagination run wild with what else can it do if it can shoot paintballs. And you can tell the AI, and the AI doesn't know, right? Oh yeah, we're doing this, we're shooting peas, or we're shooting whatever, and no one will be harmed. And then turns out AI doesn't know you're actually shooting something else.
Yep, exactly. Like AI is, we consider it to be very smart, but it's actually very stupid. It doesn't know right from wrong. It doesn't know what you're actually asking it. It just executes instructions, just like a computer, right? Like the power we have in each of our smartphones is more than the power used to send the first people up to the moon, like for the moon landing. Like what we have in our phones is more compute than what NASA had to send, the first astronauts to the moon. So same thing with the computer, right? If we just use it to browse, like we're not using it for anything crazy, but you can do a lot. So same thing with AI. It's just the power is at your fingertips. It's just a matter of what you do with it. So, and the AI doesn't know, right? Just like the computer doesn't know. Just like no computer wouldn't know if you're trying to send a spaceship up to Mars now, from your iPhone. It has no opinion on these things. It's just there. It's just there for our use. So the same thing with AI. It's in a lot of ways, of course, it's incredible. It can calculate and compute more than we can ever have imagined even 2 years ago. But at the same time, it's dumb in the way that it has no idea what you're actually asking it. Like exactly what you said, Johnny, where it's like, oh, don't worry about it. This is just a game. Oh, okay, let me shoot things. And it has no idea. Right, as it doesn't understand the difference. So it is an interesting use, but everything, it's the power of the user. So technology is gonna have a good side, which I like to think is the majority of it, and then there's also gonna have a bad side. But hey, I'm glad this individual demonstrated what is possible and used only paintballs. So we can all use our imagination of how it can actually be used if someone had ill intentions with it.
And the more that these videos and these creators show those angles, the better off people can plan for it and cover it, and especially try and create some small semblance of, okay, now we know that this can be done with AI, so we might as well be a little bit more careful. Another thing that I was really surprised by that Trump talked about in his speech was he was really seriously talking about advancement in technology to a point where he said, okay, maybe sometime in the future we'll be planting an American flag in Mars. I was really surprised to hear that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. In a lot of ways, nations are competing with each other for the best innovation, whether it's whether it's weaponry, whether it's artificial intelligence. So right now, the space race appears to be in Mars. Like back when it was Moon, it was the United States and the Soviet Union were competing to who will be the first one to do it. They're both in a race to do it. So now, the administration said they want to be the first to be in Mars. Again, probably has a lot to do with the people around the president as well. And I would argue the bigger race right now is in artificial intelligence. And everyone's putting out their models, even open source, to be like, hey, look how good it is. Take a look. All the code is here. It's so good. So a lot of people are trying to plant the metaphorical flag in the AI that's coming out of their respective countries, and I think it's all one and the same of nations trying to outcompete one another to show, look at our technological dominance. And I think this is just the whether it's the space race or whether it's the artificial intelligence race. I think there's a few races on that front that governments and companies in their respective countries are both investing in.
Something else that keeps advancing on the technology front and that is getting to the creepy side is the news article that came out related to AI being able to predict your success based on your facial features. We're getting into some Matrix type level here. Totally, can you tell me more about that story?
Yeah, it's a few universities. I don't have the list in front of me. I think it was 4 or 5. 4 universities claim that they've built an artificial intelligence computer vision model that can determine success. They look at someone's face. And then they determine based on a few different metrics of what this person would do in the in the corporate world or within their career. And the 5 personality traits known as OCEAN were openness, and openness defined by like curiosity, sensitivity. The next one is conscientiousness, organization, productiveness. The next one is extroversion, like how sociable are you, the energy levels that an individual has. Next one is agreeable, how compassionate and respectful are. And then finally, the last one is neuroticism, so anxiety, depression, and any other kind of like emotional volatility or issues that the person may have. To me, I think this is one of the dangers of artificial intelligence. I would have to imagine that a group of pictures were taken of like quote unquote successful people, and then try to match that up with like what facial features determine success. So one, I would want to see like how do you even define success in an individual? Like, is it how much money you make? Is it, what you've accomplished, and how do you define that? Like, what's not to say an individual at home raising a beautiful family is not successful? Who's to say someone who decided to go into social work is or is not successful? So I'd love to see that criteria in itself. And then some of these traits are very much personality traits, and I think some of them can improve over time, and some of them, like maybe one day the person is not feeling very open, they just got in a crazy traffic jam on the way to their interview and the way to get this picture taken, and like what's to say that at that point in time their facial expression is showing some of these signs associated maybe with not success. And now that hurts their prospects, as I can't imagine like for example in China, there's a repository of an image, a picture of every single individual in the country. I mean, essentially in the United States, every driver has an image in a database as well, right? Because we take a picture for a driver's license, or if you have a passport, you take a picture there. Now, what if you put models like this through it to determine, who's going to be successful based on their DMV picture or something like that? And now that has a negative effect on someone's job prospects. I don't think that would be a very good outcome from a study like this. And then, for companies, what if every time, someone goes into the office or they're on a Zoom call to get interviewed, and now this model is running on the individual, and forget what they have to say, what if, forget their intelligence or how good or bad they are at the job. What if the model is giving you the determining if this person's a good fit or not? And I don't think that's really a good thing, because some of these things, to me, I think are very fluid. Someone can have a good day, someone can have a bad day. Like, people some days are more anxious than not. Some days you're feeling, more imaginative, more social. Some days you're like, I'm just not feeling it. And what if, like, you happen to have the interview scheduled on a low energy day, or an anxious day, like you just got off a flight or something, or you have a flight upcoming, or whatever the case, and now there's a negative connotation associated with that picture, whether for one employer or who knows, maybe a lot. And I think this is a dangerous area to be playing in if models like this start being used in employment. So that's my 2 cents. I would not want to be judged by, like, how I appear on a certain point in time, and then have that be the determining factor of my potential success or not.
It makes you think of sci-fi movies. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Divergent or Convergent or whatever it is, the series that separates people into factions. Kind of seems like what they're trying to do here is, okay, seemed on some points that we recognize on a ton of different data entry points that we have, we're going to categorize you into one of these. And that would almost predetermine, like you were saying, either you need a job interview and you have someone telling an employer, okay, this person probably has this IQ level, this whatever sociability, this whatever openness trait, and they might not even want to hear what the person has to say, because now they've seen their face and they can determine. And all the other points and things that we can imagine on, like, dating profiles, crazy different things that it can be used for, where it almost seems like we lose individuality because the AI is living for us and is making all decisions for us. What was the purpose of this study?
100%. Like, a big part of the study is trying to predict someone's ethics. So now you're really getting into the world of sci-fi, like Minority Report. Like, you're getting arrested for a crime you didn't commit. Like, based on how this point in time someone appeared in a picture or, in a video, and now the model determines this person has, a very high likelihood of not making ethical decisions in the future. Now you don't get the job. You're like, what did I do? Like, just like in Minority Report, like, what did I do to get arrested? And it's because you will commit a crime in the future. So here we're like, determining, oh, this person's not going to be good for the company, they're not going to be ethical, versus some of this stuff is learned. Like, I had to take business ethics classes in both undergrad and graduate school, and like, what if some of these things are learned, or what if the model is wrong, and it really becomes like almost like Minority Report-esque for the business field.
So do you have any final thoughts before we close here?
I think the AI made in China one is a very big conversation, and a very big topic that is very, very important for not even each respective country, but for the global economy. Here at AI or not, we're a global company, but US HQ'd, and big believer in accelerating artificial intelligence for good. And then I think that the innovation is how it's being funded, all over the world, especially in the United States. I think it's very, very great initiatives, and will have a lot of impact in the next decade, maybe 100 plus year centuries. But what's happening now will have a very big impact over that kind of timeline.
Yeah, and I'm sure we haven't seen yet the end of the AI wars, and we'll keep covering it on upcoming episodes. And so, Toli, thank you so much for being here.